Hey you guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara. This is Barbara Talks Some More. This is my second channel. If you guys are new here, check out my original channel called Barbara Talks, where I go over astrological things, metaphysical things. I like to go live over there. So be sure to subscribe to that channel as well as this one. Over here, I like to go over public figure natal chart readings, synastry readings, and honestly, whatever comes through to talk about. But for now, it's just been that. Now, I am outside once again, so welcome. If you guys hear any sort of background sounds, it's because I am outside. So today I wanted to go over Alex Reed's Tarot's natal chart. Okay, so this is a tarot reader who was pretty big on TikTok. I mean, she popped up on my feed a few times too, but honestly, I don't really watch those types of videos, so I never really stayed for the whole video, but I generally had an idea of who this individual was. So this individual, the backstory here is that basically she has left tarot and she's saying she found Jesus, and now people are saying that she's in religious psychosis, which is like, how are you coming to that conclusion based off of one video? That's the first thing. The other people are saying that she, found a man, which honestly, I don't think it's any of these things. Interestingly enough, I don't think it's any of these things. I think she's done a follow-up video since then where she said it's not because of a man. So I'm recording this on June 25th, okay? So by the time I edit it, it might be a few days later. So, maybe more information will come out from this video and so on and so forth. But, as usual, I like to look at people's natal charts to see what is going on, what's inspiring this, so on and so forth. So I did find her birth information online. So she is born July 30th. It says she's 23 here, which I find really interesting because I really didn't think she was that young. But anyway, so we're going to go based off of this, okay, as if this is accurate. So if she's 23, it's not July yet. That would put her year of birth for 2002. Again, it's a very general video in general, okay? I'm already like hooking into like what inspired this. And by the way, in these readings, okay, everything that I say is alleged. It's for educational purposes only. If you have any of these aspects taking place in your own natal charts, it doesn't mean it's always going to play out this way. A natal chart is super rare. It always depends on a combination of things to see how the energy is going to play out exactly. We don't have our time of birth, so we don't have our rising, we don't have our houses, okay? Which would give us even more information. And again, even maybe this, year of birth isn't exactly accurate, because she's taken down this website since then. So it doesn't tell me when I actually click on the link. I just see it because I guess Google still remembers. It's her Cameo page. I make sure to screenshot it in case it disappears, okay? Because I don't know how long Google stores this information or whatever. So I just find it interesting that anytime anybody does something that is, I guess, against the narrative that they've built, everybody all of a sudden starts to attack them. I guess the audience, that was her core audience, feels betrayed. I even saw a post of some person who was crying. I'm like, please get a hold of yourself. You know what I mean? You guys should watch these videos for entertainment purposes only, or just to confirm your intuition. No one should be that dependent on tarot. You know what I mean? Tarot should be actually a stepping stone for everybody, okay? To actually learn to confirm their intuition, to trust their intuition. I look at this all as training wheels. I personally used to read tarot before as well, okay? So it's all training wheels for you to master your intuition. You don't want to be dependent on any outside thing outside of you. And it's interesting, a lot of people are again saying all these things because now she's gone to Christianity. Some people are mentioning that other lady, Doreen Virtue, who also kind of renounced the whole new age and went to Christianity. Here's what I will say, okay? This is my read on the situation before I even get into the astrological aspect of things. When you guys are dabbling into any of these things, and this is what's actually tricky with tarot, okay? With tarot, what's tricky is you need to know who and what you're connecting to, and you need to have basically a practice of when you open the session, when you close the session, cleansing the cores and making sure that everything is in the highest vibration. And this is why I'm pretty sure, this is just my theory, in all of these theological texts, they try to talk about all these things being demonic, but it's not that. It's just the person's own demons, okay? Because it's if someone's operating out of their lower chakras, the information isn't always going to be pure, right? First of all, everyone is filtering through their own lens, okay? And the lens here is based on their own experiences, based on their own biases, based on their own triggers. You know what I mean? That's why you literally need to take all these things with a grain of salt that anybody says, you need to look at it again, either as entertainment purposes only, or just to confirm your intuition. That's it. You don't want to be dependent on it. You don't want to be dependent on another person, and that's what the collective is going through right now, learning to develop discernment and all of these things, okay? So that's the first order of business. Now, the second thing here is because people operate out of like unhealed wounding, this is what I've noticed even with that Doreen Virtue person, okay? It's just like sometimes the ego just takes over. You know what I mean? It turns into a money making thing. And this is why I always suggest to everybody, you guys got to have multiple streams of income. So especially if you're doing spiritual work, so the spiritual work remains pure. So you're not dependent on it, because that's when the ego energy kicks in, right? Scarcity, ego, trying to make more, greediness, like all of these lower vibrational energies, which in the person themselves open up the energetic vessel for dark entities to hook into the person's field. So what I think happened with, Alex, I mean, this is just my read on the situation. And like, honestly, she's so young, like she hasn't even had her Saturn return yet, right? So, it could have been something that started out for fun, maybe she didn't, close these sessions accordingly. Maybe it turned into something that, again, was maybe her, main source of income. And again, the ego kicks in, right? You want more. She is a Leo at the end of the day, regardless of the year of birth, right? Like she is a Leo, right? So it's like the attention is, being fueled, right? And it's like, again, that ego wants more, right? More. You keep pushing, you keep doing more. And then it's like, it's not coming really from a heart-centered place anymore, even if it may have started out that way. And then the thing is like when the energy isn't clear, because the thing is with spiritual work, the energy has to be so clear, right? Now, here's the thing. I know a lot of people in the spiritual communities are going to say things like, oh, you shouldn't charge for your services. I don't necessarily agree with that either. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you're still putting in your energy toward that thing. And, for you to receive information, you basically have to go out of body, yes, but you have to go into the higher frequency, which is faster, right? So then it's like that actually tires out the physical body even more. So it's like, if you're not getting some form of energy exchange for the work that you're putting in, you're getting energetically drained. And this is what I always say to you guys too, is like in any realm, whether it's your job, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationship, friendship, wherever, if you're getting drained, there isn't an equal energy exchange here, right? So in this case, there needs to be some form of exchange. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, like, it shouldn't be on either extreme. It shouldn't also be like $10,000 for a retreat either. You know what I mean? So it's like there needs to be some sort of, middle ground here, right? But anyways, with all that being said, the main thing here is you're never going to be overly dependent on any form of income. But it's tricky when it comes to spiritual work, because it's like, I've seen this happen so much, where it's like the person becomes overly dependent on that being their source of income. They might go into scarcity, especially like, again, it could be inconsistent income, like all these things, especially when you're doing anything entrepreneurial. You know what I mean? And then it's like, again, it's not coming from a pure energy anymore. It's coming from the lower chakras. As soon as it's coming from the lower chakras, humans are portals on their own. You know what I mean? I saw some videos where people were like, got this demon, that demon. Honestly, it's just like people, say the most. But it's like, was it maybe a dark energetic portal that got opened because of the lower chakra things? You know what I mean? It's just like people a lot of the time always want to misplace, right, the issue. They're going to say it's some external thing. No, it's her own thing. Like, she's the one who opened up these, energies, right? So what I think happened, okay, all of this to say, giving guys background information, I think, yes, she went into scarcity. She went into lower vibrational energies. I think she opened up some kind of dark energy. She saw some dark stuff, and similar to Doreen Virtue, okay, because Doreen Virtue was probably also super ego driven, right? Because she, was a millionaire, With Alex, I don't feel it to be overly ego driven, if that makes sense. I think it's just something that maybe started out for fun and just got like way ahead of her, and maybe energetically she wasn't prepared for what was to come. So I do think she saw some stuff, okay, either some dark stuff. And it's interesting because some people, are talking about how she was in that song, was it Halsey, somebody, okay, she had like a lyric where she talked about Alex Reed's tarot, and for some reason that connected me to, and just in passing, I was like, is there a little bit of selling out? Like, is there something going on here? You know what I mean? Like a minor energy here, okay, that could have gone in that direction. It just like, it doesn't feel like it's full-blown like sellout energy, but it's just like, just for a sliver of an energy, very subtle, okay? So there's something going on here, you know what I mean? Where it's like, again, somebody who the energy got ahead of them. And it's like, also, you guys, it's like, this is why a lot of people, sometimes they even go into mania. I'm not saying she is at all. I'm just saying, like, people who maybe aren't like full-blown public figures, but like something like this takes place where certain things take off for them, but they haven't developed the energetic and spiritual protection for it. It's like basically what ends up happening in this situation, you have to look at it as like all these different people's energies are connecting to the person. They're all being directed toward the person, right? You need to have an energetic shield. That's why a lot of people, especially in the entertainment industry, right, and all these things, they deal with magicians, allegedly, gotta say that, right? But people who know the occult and so on and so forth, so they can have some form of energetic protection when they're dealing with multiple people. If it's the everyday person, right, that gets involved in these things, you have to think of it this way. It's like all these people are directing their energy toward this person, right? And it's affecting their mental space if they have no protection. So honestly, I do think that this is maybe even a cautionary tale about developing, spiritual strength, about developing, a strong solar plexus chakra, a strong aura, right? Because, I talk about this on my other channel too, right? I have a video called How to Stay Grounded as a 12th house person. Any psychic person or Neptunian person will probably resonate with them. It's like you have to be very careful with your energy field, okay? If you are embarking on a spiritual journey. And then again, right, in this case, the more people that are connecting to this individual, right, the more energetically susceptible the person is if they're not cleansing their energy, if they're not maintaining their high vibration, if they're not clearing out their lower chakras. So she's young again, right? It's like, to me, sometimes I even see it psychically that the person's solar plexus doesn't even fully land, okay, within their body. Sometimes I just see this psychically until their Saturn return. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like there's a lot of interesting projections that people have. Like, why did people automatically assume that this is because of a man? Like, that's to me a projection. It's because those people would like drop everything or like change their whole personality because of a relationship, right? That's just the way that I see the energy. So honestly, energetically, I just feel like this is someone who got ahead of herself, started something out for fun, maybe gave her freedom, maybe she didn't think for it to, get to this point. Maybe she didn't properly spiritually cleanse herself, maybe got a little bit, ego driven, or just like something that she had to do all the time, just like subtly ego driven, but it's still there. Leo does like attention. It's there, right? About views and getting the money and all these things, right? Or just like the clients, like however it manifests. So again, like I tell you guys, it's always good to have more than one stream of income, okay? Because then you can energetically balance, especially if you're doing spiritual work. So you're not dependent on that being your main source of income, and so that work can remain pure. So you're not unintentionally within the self opening up these, portals, okay? Because humans are portals, okay? So that's my read on her. That's what I think happened in terms of like this whole journey of hers, right? And again, she's only in her 20s. She hasn't even had her Saturn return, right? Her first Saturn return. So it's like really like a journey of the self, like figuring out who the person is, who they are, like learning about themselves. Like again, 23, like I'm actually really surprised because I thought she was older than that. Right. So taking a look at her natal chart, the first thing that I noticed here, let's say this is her year of birth, okay? If she actually is 23, let's say she is born in 2002, July 30th, like that was on her Cameo page. So her sun is in Leo, moon would be in Aries, Mercury's in Leo, even Mars is in Leo, and she's a Pluto and Sag. This is interesting to me, okay? Because it's like, first of all this fire energy that's taking place in here, so the sun in Leo, moon is in Leo, Mercury is in Leo, Mars is in Leo. Saturn is going through Aries right now, right? Especially the sun being in Leo. Saturn being in Aries is literally going to trine her sun, right? So she's literally going through an identity change. Literally, like Saturn is making her question her identity, right? So it's just so interesting that it's like literally in the transits. It's going to aspect the moon at some point, right? Depending on the degrees, we don't know at the time, right? It's going to aspect the Mercury, it's going to aspect the Mars, right? So there's going to be a lot of changes probably that take place. And Saturn's also putting restrictions on all of these things. I think in her case, more so like intuitively what I'm picking up on, it's just like, because it's trining this Leo energy, it's just like, it's really going to ask her, okay, during this period of time, like, what do you find your self-worth in, okay? Or what do you get validation from? Or it's like, yeah, what do you build your identity around, okay? That's kind of what I'm picking up on, because Leo, again, like I mentioned in the earlier part of this video, right? Leo is that energy that, craves validation, right? It's like, the more that they get, the more that they keep doing that thing, right? Whatever gives them the validation, the attention. So for some people, it could be acting, for some people, it could be, singing, depends on the chart, right? So that's, I think, what Saturn's going to be asking her for this next period of time, okay? So, I look up to 10 degrees, sometimes 15 if it catches my attention. I know some people are hardcore, they only look at the tighter orbs, okay? But it's interesting because a lot of this like Leo energy, and again, Aries, depending on the degrees here, it's all going to be aspected by her Pluto. Okay, so Pluto aspects her sun, Pluto aspects her moon, Pluto aspects her Mercury, and Pluto aspects her Mars. All of this is pretty much going to be a trine. Again, if the orb is 10 degrees. So I just find this really interesting because it's like she does have this Plutonian element, again, of death, rebirth, and in general, these people go through a lot of changes throughout their lives. But it's interesting because she's got a lot of these outer planets basically aspecting her internal energy. It's interesting because it's like that was one of the first things that I was looking for. I wanted to see if she had any Neptune aspects to see like where does she lie in terms of her like psychic gifts and abilities, because it's like you're gonna have like tarot card readers, right? Like people who just read the cards, okay? But then there's people who are intuitively, right? Like hooking into the energy, right? So there's like a difference there, right? In between someone who's just reading them, right? Who like really knows them really well, right? And like literally reading out the story, okay? Someone who will be maybe a little bit more linear in terms of their approach, and then people who are more intuitive, right? So she's got a lot of Neptune taking place here, okay? She's got Sun opposing Neptune, she's got Mercury opposing Neptune, okay? She has Mars opposing Neptune, she's got Jupiter opposing Neptune. So yes, yes, absolutely, there's an element of psychic energy here, spiritual energy, like that's there, okay? And then it's interesting because she's got a lot of this energy of the external planets aspecting her internal planets, right? So it's interesting because this is that energy of just like being able to hook into the collective's unconscious, especially with all this Neptune, even the Pluto, right, assisting people with this change and transformation. She even has Mercury opposing Uranus, but at the same time, those same people could flip on you. So I just find it interesting. You see this all the time, right, with anybody really who's in the public eye, right? Sometimes it takes one thing that they do and it's just like everybody comes after them, where it's like, would you do that to someone that you met in your everyday life? Like, would you be that hardcore? Like, you know what I mean, with like your commentary and like all these things. So it's literally part of her life purpose, literally does encompass like speaking. Okay, that's definitely there. She is a 3-day number and her north node is in Gemini, again, given that, you know, this information is correct and accurate. And, you know, she is a 5 life path too, right, with all this Leo energy in here too. You know, she might be interested maybe down the line, right, after maybe the Saturn return, as she goes through her journey, right? I feel like, again, more of her north node will be activated after her Saturn return because her Saturn is literally in Gemini. This is really interesting, okay? I do feel like she might be interested maybe in acting or something of that sort. Like, she'll still maintain some sort of like public life, I feel like, right? Because a Leo is like that. You know, Leo always wants to, you know, be seen in this way, right? But, you know, it might be something more day to day or something of that sort. But again, North Node is in Gemini. So part of the life purpose literally here deals with speaking, communicating, okay? The other thing that I also wanted to mention that I noticed is she's literally got a grand fire trine taking place here, okay? So she literally has a grand trine in fire, okay? So she's got her moon in Aries, which is a part of the trine. It's including the Pluto, okay? And even the south node. This is interesting to me. The Pluto conjuncts the south node. Then it's going to be her Mercury. This is a very interesting grand fire trine. That's powerful. That's probably why she was able to amass like the amount of people that she was able to amass, right? And Pluto, like bringing through change and transformation. But because the Pluto here is literally with the south node and it's part of this grand trine, I literally feel like all of this is past life related for her. I feel like this was clearance for her, connected to a previous lifetime, right? Maybe something, you know, she had a desire line to do, you know, something to do with this metaphysical spiritual world. And I do feel like she's going to move away from this. I mean, she literally said that she is, right? And, you know, clearing this out in the earlier part of her life, because it's literally with the south node here and it's opposing the north node, is a grand fire trine. So in one way, shape, or form, I do feel like all of this was fated. I do think it was part of her path. I think that for everybody in general, like whatever takes place is still a part of their path. And, you know, going through this like death and rebirth process, so her north node can be activated in Gemini. Again, you know, I see her doing like talking still, you know, speaking, communicating, maybe writing, still within the public arena, again with the Leo energy. Even Gemini deals with social media too. Oh my gosh, you guys, I literally had to come back because I was just like doing something else and I was thinking, and I was like, I literally feel like, obviously we don't have the houses, but in my head I was like, I just feel like her Chiron would be in the 10th house, because this is like a wound. It's just so interesting because I just like psychically see it by like the collective like poking at the wound, because that's like 10th house, you know what I mean? You can either heal through the collective or it's like the wound deals with like, again, the public. It's interesting when you have Chiron in the 10th house because you can literally either heal through the collective, okay, or it's like, again, you know, the collective can poke at that wound. Anyway, so I went to check. In my head I was like, oh, like we don't have the houses, so I was like, I bet you anything, in my head I'm thinking this, I'm like, I feel like then she must have Chiron in Capricorn, which it's a different energy, right? Because the sign is how the energy is being expressed and the house is where the energy is being expressed, and lo and behold, there it is, Chiron in Capricorn. So just confirm what I was picking up on. So interesting that that's there too. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here for Alex Reads Tarot. So that's my impression here at first glance, which, by the way, guys, if you would like your own natal chart reading, progress natal chart reading, synastry reading, mini natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can send me an email, okay? Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel, to my other channel. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.